It's February 2025, and all I can say is welcome to Community Conversations here on Love Bay Radio, your number one Afrobeats music talk radio station all across the world, here streaming online. And if you're not familiar with us, make sure that you check us out on our Instagram page, Facebook, YouTube. We are everywhere where you find your social media and you interact with our community at Love Bay Radio. I am your host, Nadia Headley, and it is my utmost pleasure to be here with you. It is February 2025, and we are here to talk about Black family love. That's right. As many of you know, our radio station is based in Toronto, Canada. And in Canada, well, in Ontario at least, for February, we have a special day called Family Day, which is usually the Monday after Valentine's Day. So we usually have that day off and we spend it doing something memorable with our families. And well, many of you know that across North America, February is celebrated as Black History Month. We have lots to talk about there with that. Um, and of course, it's Valentine's, so that's Love Month. So we are focusing on Black family love all month long. And we'll be joined by different families from the Black community, whether that is Afro Caribbean, through living in Africa, the Caribbean, or throughout the diaspora, to share their stories of how they come together to create organizations, whether they are for profit or nonprofit institutions, to be able to share the love, the wealth, the success that they have been able to build over the years so that more of us can experience Black family love and success. We are celebrating history as it is made, or as we like to say, her story, because we have a particular penchant for celebrating femininity that is successful. But throughout the month, we are focusing on the family and how we are able to derive this level of success. So, first of all, as we jump into this, it's time for what's going on. What is going on in our world, my friends? And if you would like to have your nonprofit or your for profit business on the screen with me, then make sure to reach out to us here at Love Bay Radio. What's going on? Um, the world is in chaos. It is in utmost chaos right now. Right now, we have multiple neighbors who are fighting and squabbling during the month that's supposed to be Love Month, right? And it's creating an opportunity for those of us in Black family structures to be able to say, well, hold on, how do we need to express love, understand love, derive love, you know, cultivate love in our communities, especially with the multiple, bits of chaos that we're experiencing. As a global community, we have been enduring, and I'm not here to debate what side you're on. You want to put it in the chat, go ahead and do that. But we're not here to pick a side. We're just talking about the facts as they are. We've been enduring the conflict between Russia and the Ukraine. As a global community, we've added the conflict between Israel and Palestine. And now, in case you didn't know, while there isn't physical on the ground combative conflict, we're now adding a trade war between the US and Canada. And for those of us who work in the development community, there's one thing to hear rhetoric around diversity, equity, and inclusion being the cause for the world's problems, including plane crashes, apparently. But it's another thing to actually see that play out in real life. And for those of us in the development community who are studying ways to improve our global existence as human beings here sharing this planet, usually we would see a downfall of maybe about 5 to 10 years whenever there is major shift on the geopolitical scene. This shift is happening now. Um, I have it on good sources that there's been a halt across the globe on US aid financing. Now, if you understand how the trickle down system works in the not for profit space, the big countries all commit to their domestic aid and their foreign aid. And usually those come in things we call envelopes. Those envelopes, I mean, right? It's a number on a piece of paper. It could be millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars, even trillions of dollars, depending. And those envelopes are committed to and dispersed over many years to support other countries that are developing to join the ranks of the developed countries. And so developed countries commit to a certain number of funds that they're dispersing throughout the world, and then that money is sent down and down and down and down and down and down and down through the grant rating process until small little baby nonprofit organizations are able to tap into little bits of that money. Therefore, the trickle down system. And so usually when we have a conflict, let's say the war in Iraq, or the launch of the campaign into Afghanistan, that would reverberate throughout the world within a 5 to 10 year period, because as I said, these envelopes have long-term commitments. But within a few days of a political shift within the global north, we now have ripple effects happening immediately. To all of our friends who are watching, again, wherever you stand politically, that's totally up to you. Have the debate in the chat if you feel like. But the conversation we're having here is, how do we stand up in these moments and decide that Black family love is going to be our focus? With all of the things going on in our community, with all of the distractions, with all of the craziness, how do we stand firm on the fact that it is building community that has gotten us here, and it is remaining intentional about that community building that will take us forward from here. So, my friends, take a lot of pause. I am hoping, every time we do the show, we make sure that we put some links up and so that you can do research for yourself. And we really hope that you are doing that so that you're learning for yourself. And as I've told you before, you agree with me, let me know in the comments here on YouTube, because you might be listening to us live on the radio station online, and you may not realize that we are also streaming live on YouTube. And so go over to YouTube at Love Bay Radio, and you can comment live during the show. You can also comment on the replay, hashtag live, hashtag replay, and let me know when you're watching. And with that, then, let me know, hey, Nadia, I agree with you, or I think you're talking absolute nonsense. Have fun, whichever side you're on. But right now, regardless of our political perspectives, we cannot ignore the fact that our world is in very sudden flux. And while it looks crazy and everything on the outside, my admonition to all of us is that we stay focused on what's happening on the inside. What's happening within our community, what's happening within our homes, what's happening within our families, and how can we make sure that we learn from the things that are the experiences that our forefathers, our ancestors, our elders have gone through, so that we can develop and build stronger communities right here. We used to have a bank in Barbados that had a slogan, strong roots, wide reach, right? And that is exactly what we're trying to promote here. How can we strengthen our roots as members of this community throughout the diaspora to be able to have wider reach for our children and our next generations to continue to have wider reach? That's why it is my absolute pleasure to be able to introduce you very shortly to the Watson family. The Watson family is behind AJM Enterprises Inc. in Barbados. Again, we've been talking to people based in Canada almost entirely. We'll be branching out and bringing you as many different perspectives from around the world as we can. And remember that if you want to be a guest on the show, to connect with us here at Love Bay Radio and let us know what it is that you think is important for the community to discuss while you are listening to your number one Caribbean and Afrobeats radio station. And so let's make sure that we are not just tuning in, but bringing our friends to tune in as well. As I mentioned, AJM is the brainchild of the Watson family that you'll meet. And it's your one-stop shop for technologies if you are a retailer. point of sale systems, hardware, and accessories. So if you don't know what a point of sale system is, anytime you go to a store and you check out when you go to pay, all of the little keypads that they're punching, that's the point of sale system. The highly trained and friendly staff at AJM Enterprises ensure the utmost quality of services for their clients so you can focus on the satisfaction of your customers as a retailer. AJM Enterprises believes themselves to be incredible humans acting incredibly human. Retailers throughout the Caribbean have entrusted the success of their businesses to AJM Enterprises Inc. for over 20 years. At AJM Enterprises Inc., they partner closely with clients, understanding the tiny details and the large goals they have for their businesses so that they can serve their clients and maximize the benefit over the long term. AJM Enterprises was launched and positioned itself as a small enterprise to be reckoned with, challenging the established solution that providers already made available to the market. In 2020, the company's foundation was solidified and relaunched under the management of Mr. Mervyn Watson, whom you'll meet, as a family-owned and operated business. The company has held its values and mission, and as a result has stayed solid and strong, guiding clients through the global recession of 2008, which is considered by some to be one of the most difficult times known. And then we had the global pandemic. So we're still here. And although it's been said that many Black-owned businesses are unable to traverse the generations that, follow the founder, we want to talk now about how it is then that you're able to evolve and include the next generation in your business. I'm happy to be able to sit down with the Watson family here to discuss how they have built a strong business over the past 20 years, how they have impacted the community, the trends they see in Black-owned multi-generational businesses, and how they plan to develop leaders for the future. Please welcome up to the stage the Watson family.
Hi.
Hello. Thank you
Hello.
so much for joining us this evening. I'm so happy that you're here. I understand you're under the weather.
Somewhat, yes, but we made the decision to be here.
And we and our listeners and viewers appreciate it very much that you're able to join us today. I want to start with you, Mr. Watson. So thanks for chiming up. Why did you start AJM Enterprises Inc.? And was this your first business?
No, it was not the first business. It goes way back, way back from when I was even a student. I just had the knack for being in business, so I launched out with a couple of friends, and that didn't go very well. Um, then after that, I launched out again with on my own, but with I convinced a number of people to work with me and to buy shares into the business so that I could raise the capital I need to launch the business. That didn't go. Actually, matter of fact, that was doing reasonably well until austerity measures of 1991. But then Barbados government, those austerity measures destroyed almost every small business there was in Barbados at that time. So I was one of those businesses that went kaput. So I had to go get a job. I had to go get a job all the time in the job. I just wanted to be back out there, um, you know, building. And so when the time became right, I grabbed a couple more partners and we launched the business. This would be late 1990s, actually, that we launched the business. And we started to build. And I primarily was building with just my partners in the early 2000s. But somewhere along the line, they kind of lost sight of the dream. And so one jumped ship early, and then by 2009, so we were on the other jump ship, and I had one or two choices: um, let the ship sink or build, and I chose to build instead. And as I was building, one of the things that would sort of influence me is when I walked through a certain street in Bridgetown here in Barbados, I would see a sign that said established in 1908. And that company was still running under the original name with the original family established in 1908. And I'm like, how do you keep it going for a whole century? And so it always, rested on my mind that something had to be done, that it will continue, because I'm aware of all the good Black businesses that existed that no longer exist, simply because the founder or the key person has gone on, and there was no process put in place for the continuation of that business. So with that riding on my mind, I decided, you know what, I've left my family out of this for too long. What we need to do, just like that company that was established in 1908, we need to bring the family together. And during the time while we were building, of course, we educated our children. They've become very well educated. So I think they should be able to do a better job than I was able to do now. And so the aim now is for them to start to work their way in. Yes, I understand that they will have their own choices and they want to go their own paths, their own careers and whatnot. But my hope is that they will see something that is needed for the continuation of what we now call AJM. You might choose to change its name, its focus, but it should continue. And so that when the next generation comes along, which is the one after this generation, they too have something that will take them through college, take them through wherever they need to go, and it can take them beyond. And that's where I now see AJM as is.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. So just to make sure we recap for our listeners and our viewers on YouTube and on all of our social media spaces, there were multiple iterations of business: solo, with partners, with investors. And after all these years of learning and building, you have now been able to formalize a more family focused structure in your business. Am I capturing that correctly?
You got that right.
Absolutely. So I just want to encourage our listeners, because we have so many conversations in the Black community about whether or not it's possible for us to find financing, for us to be able to develop credit, or it's, to be able to raise capital to start our businesses. And so you're talking about the ability to formulate from within the community first. And then did you also go through traditional financing structures as well?
At some point, yes. Yes, because the need for growth and expansion, not that it was bigger than the investors could handle, but unfortunately the investors were afraid. And so I had to go outside of the community, as you would call it, into the commercial banking system and try to then work my way through that system. It had its challenges, but in the end, that's what it comes down to in the end is about really learning about what is available, how to work within your community, and how to work within your commercial space to get the best out of it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And Mrs. Watson, in all of this building and learning and developing, tell us a bit about your professional background and the role that you currently play in the business.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My professional background, I'm an accountant, full-time employed outside of AJM. And apart from that, I assist AJM with their accounting duties. I do a lot of their, let's say, keeping their books and accounting up to date. I take care of the statutory legal obligations, which is monthly and otherwise. And I more or less keep the account up to date so they know where the money is and when there's money, when there's no money.
Mm-hmm. Would you encourage other accountants to work with smaller organizations across Barbados, for in your example, but throughout the Caribbean, to be able to support them in a way like that?
Yes, because I would say yes. I think the small companies, they need probably someone hands-on to help them, to assist them in, keeping their accounting up to date, again, meeting their legal obligations. And sometimes it doesn't have to be a big firm. It could be an individual who can come in and just assist them in keeping those, the accounting side of the business up to date. So yeah.
Thank you. So, encouragement for anyone out there, if you are starting your accounting career, if you are an established accountant, there are lots of small businesses who are in need of your services, and lots of opportunity for pro bono work if you're building your portfolio. But if you have a heart and a passion for developing the community, needing that hands-on experience, then connect with us here at Love Base so that we can also help connect you to the small businesses who are in our cluster. And young Miss Watson, you also have a career, I understand, a professional career outside of AJM Enterprises Inc. Tell us a little bit about that professional career, and then tell us how participating in the business with your family has helped you in growing your own personal career.
Okay. Hi, good night, everyone. Um, I would say the business came before my profession. I always knew I wanted to be a doctor, but coming up through the years, I had to sit and observe what entrepreneurship was like. Meaning, sitting and watching my dad go day in, sometimes day to day to day, no night, and essentially observe the hardships of what it was like being an entrepreneur, especially in a small country of or small island of Barbados. Um, when I first started working under my dad, it was okay. Yes, it's a job. Yes, it's my dad as work that is the head of the company, but it's still a job at the end of the day. You still had to get to work on time. You still had to figure out how to but it was QuickBooks that I was doing at the time, answering calls, following up with customers. And this is prior to the retail aspect of the company. So this is meant everything was merged together because now there is the retail aspect and then there is what you call the other side? Administration, right. So when I was working in the administrative side, it taught me that not everyone will answer your call. Not everyone will have time to talk to you at that particular time, but you have to work around other people's schedules. Now, moving from that into the retail aspect, I had to then build customer service. So it was no longer being able to talk to somebody on the other side of the phone. I had to actually speak to them face to face. Now, with the personality that I have, it was never an issue, but you still had to formulate your words in the best interest of the customer at the time because you want them to spend the most money. You know what I mean? And I was able to sit down from that level when I was, I guess I would say just I want to say junior, but at the time it was just myself, and then observing someone else coming to work with me, and then having to help that person and show them how they could utilize their words better, or even just observing body language and knowing how to maneuver around somebody else to get the best out of that transaction. Now, taking that into medicine, it's essentially the same thing. When a patient approaches you, you have to observe even before they sit down and open their mouth what you anticipate will happen. Everyone will not be the same. Everyone will not be open up to, even if somebody knows that they have an issue and they come to you, that doesn't necessarily mean that they want to talk about their issue with you in the strangest way. So you have to then by default sit back and observe how your body language and the words you use can impact somebody else. Likewise, with discipline, having to get to where you need to be on time, organization is also very key. And I see that in Daddy's business as well as how I would continue in the future using organizational skills. Um, and in essence, what I always would say is that just because I spent 5, 6 long years studying medicine doesn't mean that I'm going to limit myself to just medicine. I came up seeing the entrepreneurial side. I also have my own businesses start up just because of seeing what it's like having to go through my own hardships. And I made the decision that I'd rather be an entrepreneurial doctor than just a doctorate in itself. So
So it sounds like this had quite an impact on not just your decision for your career choice, but how you'd approach your career. And then now you found this beautiful merger. How would you encourage a young person who has an idea for a business, but they also have this dream, like you talked about, to have a professional career and making those two things happen?
I began to read this book, Atomic Habits. Within the book, it essentially gears your mindset to understand that things happen in small steps. You have an idea and you have something that you would like to accomplish. You give yourself a timeline and you give yourself a plan to get to that accomplishment. Not everything might happen within the 5-10 years that you're hoping that it would happen, but at least if you accomplish one thing every 3 months, every 1 year, you'll realize that gradually you will look back and realize you have 10 accomplishments that can help you to get to both goals at the end of the day, rather than you sitting down and saying, "Oh, I want to be a doctor," I'm not saying that I don't suffer from this, because I have so many ideas at once. Sometimes I just wish that I could open my eyes and everything would be done, But you have to decide, all right, this is where I am now. I can only achieve this small step. If I do this small step, no, I get it out of the way and it can help me get onto my bigger steps. And eventually you will be able to merge everything together, just because of how life is and how things and opportunities just present themselves over time. You can't really anticipate how life will go, but you can make a plan to get to where you would like to be.
All right. So you've heard it here. Despite the fact that you may have what you think are conflicting ideas, there are ways to make them work together. There are ways to leverage what you have learned in one space and transfer it to another space. And Dr. Watson has actually been able to give you some steps. And I heard the name of a book. Can you repeat the book name so that people can go looking for the book?
Atomic Habits.
Atomic Habits, right? Thank you for that. Now, I know that it's not just all business with you guys. Mr. Watson, tell me about the work that you've been doing in the community. I know that you have prior established work in the community as well as more current organizational work in the community. Can you share a little bit about that with us, please?
Yeah, certainly can. Just wondering if I hope that I don't cross any lines here. But somewhere back in 2010, 2011, I think it was, when we came up with some ideas about how we could help the youth. And out of that idea and thought, someone sat down and created a charity and a whole program that was then developed into a charity, a full charity and a program to help the youth. And from about 2012, 2013, I believe it was. Correct me if I got dates wrong. We were helping the youth across Barbados, as long as they were either in secondary school, beginning college, or at the Barbados Community College. We were putting programs in place to help them to gain a focus on their career path, where they want to be, and what they wanted to do. And so that has been one of our biggest pushes as far as community work and so on is being concerned. Now, this young lady next to me has been involved in things like beach cleanups and collecting plastics and whatnot for.
It is the Barbados Initiative. It's BICC though.
Right, BICC. We're trying to figure out what BICC means. So we have been always giving back to the community, and we've also been encouraging other entrepreneurs and businesses to give back to the community. As a matter of fact, in our program, can I go ahead and give more details about the program?
So for what I can speak to, the program would have placed different interns in organizations across Barbados,
Yes.
so that they would be able to have a project-based internship
Yes.
when the island was not in a habit of interning young people to help them have more hands-on learning opportunities. So I can share that, but if you could even take us from further back and some of the early work that you would have done as well.
Okay, sure. I'm trying not to overstep my bounds here, you know. But yeah, even from early on, even before we got into formal programs, we were helping young men at the St. Leonard's Boys School, because one of the things that was indicated to us was that at that school, which was then at that time, it was an all boys school. I think it's still an all boys school. But they found that a large percentage of inmates at our local prison actually were graduates from that school. And so we put a program together to try to work with young men as they were going through their school careers and whatnot, to see if we can help them to to find a path, to find something positive that they can do with their lives, rather than becoming a statistic of the system that then said that there were higher incarcerations from their school than almost any other school on the island. So that was some of the work that we would have done. We also helped them to attain one of the first computer labs that they've had, and I think that was even the island has had. And so those are some of the things that I would have been involved in terms of community work and whatnot, even long before there was an AJM. So doing AJM and community work were not two separate and diverse thoughts, but merely a continuation. Always looking for the opportunity where we could help, where we could give back, where we could sponsor, where we could do anything to help the community and to help young people in the community, especially because we certainly understand that oftentimes younger people in the community, they do need some help from time to time, and it doesn't necessarily come from parents or the enclosed family circuit or community, something that comes from without. And so where we could, we wanted to help. And I guess that our program, where we took young people and we put them, we got them into different workplaces, and we were able to get them into these workplaces because of the business and community relationship that we developed with those other businesses. So it wasn't a hard fight to get them assigned into a business. They went in on our reputation. They went in on our ties and our on the relationships that we had with those businesses. And so their path in was not very difficult. I'm happy to tell you that many years after, some of those young people that I'm still connected to, some of those young people have done extremely well. Some of them are well set in careers. Some of them they've done extremely well. Matter of fact, many of them still thank me up to this day, although I didn't understand that that we had played such an impactful role in their lives. But today, many of them that I meet today are well settled and doing very, very well. And we just praise the Lord that we were able to do what we were able to do for them.
Yeah, thank you for that. And you said you encourage other businesses in your cluster, your clientele, your partnerships to give back to the community as well. Why do you think it's important that businesses are pouring into the community?
Well, because the natural thought is that we go to the business, we spend all of our hard-earned money, and they take it and they live large. So it is useful for the business to become part of the community and say, okay, look, I know you guys have given me all your hard-earned money. Here's some of it back for you. Here's something you can do. Here, send a child to school. Here, buy a uniform for a child. Help the community, and then it's sort of like a cycle, right? And the community will have more respect for you, and you'll be part of the community. And I think that it augurs well that both work hand in hand, as opposed to it being the perception that all the business is there to do is just gobble up all your money, see you later, thank you, and go live large.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if you own a business, even if it's a small business, there's still ways that you can work to support your community. no matter where you find yourselves across the world. I know that we have lots of listeners in the US, Canada, Germany, and many countries across the world. No matter where you find yourself, whatever it is that you're passionate about, you can utilize the fact that you have a business, you have network, like Mr. Watson said, you have partnerships, you have community around your business where you can then leverage all of those relationships to support a local sports team, for example, to support, a local science team, a local school, because these are the places where your own family will frequent and will be able to receive services and resources as well. So it's tremendous encouragement for any of us on the entrepreneurial side looking to see how we can deepen our relationship with the community, because when they see you out and about and they see you actually doing that work, they're more likely to patronize your business as well. And so if you want to learn more about how you can be supporting your community through our work with Love Bay Radio as a nonprofit organization, be sure to connect with us. We have all of our social media and our contact information listed below in the YouTube channel. If you are listening to us online, if you have already downloaded the app or you haven't done that yet, go to the Apple Store or go to the Play Store to download the Love Bay Radio app, where you can stay on top of all of the shows and all of the resources that we're bringing to the community. Now, Mrs. Watson, I work a lot with women in business. And on our Her Story platform, we work with visionary women who are leading in nonprofit and in entrepreneurship across the world. One of the biggest things that women in business tend to struggle with is the balance. How do you balance work, home life? You also have your professional career, then you have your family business. We find ourselves in the sandwich generation where we're taking care of the generation that has gone before us and the generation that's following us. And then we're always told to remember self-care because we're supposed to find time for ourselves somewhere in the middle of all of that as well. What are your strategies? How do you find time that, how do you cope with that balance between home life and business?
Sometimes I wonder. It has not been easy, but I believe in family, being family oriented. I also believe that I guess I grew up with my mom being home and looking after the family. So for me, that was also something that I found as important for me in my own family life. And even though as busy as we are, I still felt I had a need to make sure my family was taken care of. There was food on the table, clothes were clean, washed, everybody prepared, for everyday work. And even for my daughter, I also found it necessary to make the time to make sure that she knew how to cook, wash, do all those duties in case she had to go on her own to study or, as she grew to look after herself or her family. So at the end of the day, I found a way to make time to do those things. And then apart from that, everybody should have a little extracurricular activity for themselves. Mine might be probably doing sometimes working out, sometimes dancing. That's mine. And everybody will have their own. But apart from all of this and the busy lifestyle, we find time to come together for family outings. We might say, let's go to have dinner together. Let's have a staycation out for a weekend, or we could travel for the plan vacation so that we could travel out for a week or however long and spend time together as a family. Because at the end of the day, working, 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 you still have to find time for family. So it's not easy, it's challenging, but sometimes you gotta make the extra effort to do certain
Mhm.
things that you might not see as important or someone might not see as important, but some little things for me was important and I put the effort in to make those happen.
Mhm. So prioritization, right? What's at the top of your list? How do you make time for what's at the top of your list? If that's family, then you're making time, you're scheduling time. You're not just working for the future, but you're living today so that you can enjoy the journey towards the future. Ladies, if you're listening, comment below and let us know what are some of your tips and some of your strategies. How do you get it all done? Like Mrs. Watson said, we really wonder. You know, we work it out one week and then we fail the next week, and it's up and down. So tell us, what are the things that you've done that have actually worked for you? Now, Dr. Watson, as we talk about like building the future and remembering to prioritize what's important here today and now, what do you see as the future for AJM Enterprises as the youngest one in the family?
Okay. So recently I've been trying to do a lot more introspection. And I've come to realize, and it's not really introspective really, but as you observe where the world is going currently, you will see that technology is moving at an exponential speed right now. We cannot catch up to it. With regards to AGM, it's already technological based, you know. So why wait and stay where we were in the 1990s, early 2000s, when things are changing constantly every day? Daddy has his own ideas, and I think that to harbor that and make it into what he sees it as, plus, well, including what technology is or will be in a couple of years, I could see that going quite far. The biggest thing I would say is consistency is the main thing that you would find in a lot of these families, black owned businesses or businesses that existed years ago. The consistency and having certain systems or processes in place or operations. Because what happens if, God forbid, daddy isn't able to continue the business anymore, then someone has to take up that position. Now, in my profession, as I'm going to continue to further my degree, I don't really want to touch on it, but I'm looking to also include technology in the future of medicine. And that in return, what I'm looking to do in particular, I can actually use in the business. So I don't have to limit myself to only just my medical career. Meaning that I'm not just thinking about myself, but I'm thinking about how the future of AJM might look in the next 10 years. Mhm.
Thank you for that. And my final question to Mr. Watson, for someone who has an idea right now, a young person who's thinking about maybe, or maybe not a young person, but someone new to business, thinking about potentially starting a business, given the global climate, financially, geopolitically, etc., what encouragement would you give to someone who is currently toying with a business idea?
Really, really good question. At this stage, as you say, with all that seemed to be happening, the best sort of encouragement I can give is whatever your idea is, stay focused on your idea. Learn, learn. I have a great friend. His name is David Imanitier, who always used to tell me that learners will be the earners. So learn about the business, learn about what it is that it requires. Go to business school if you have to, um, but learn and follow your dream. It won't be easy. There is no magic carpet ride. You're not going to twitch two fingers and all of a sudden Shazam. Like Dana said earlier, it's going to take some time, and also you have to just persist. You just have to persist, and if it is really what you're convinced, you're really convinced that this is where you want to go. Now, as you go, remember that there may be a shift in the road or in direction. The great Steve Jobs once went through that, and as a result, he ended up creating a fantastic technological company that we all familiar with today. But it was not his original path when he was going to school. He was forced to go a different direction. And today, we're looking back, as he said before he passed away, that was probably one of the best diversions that ever occurred in his life. So something, even as you're on your way, if there is a diversion, don't think of it as just being bad, or don't think of it as something that will stop you. But look at the diversion and realize that that diversion may be actually taking you where you're going, but in a better way. So you have to give that some consideration. That's the most encouragement I give them. And at this stage, I would definitely say, if you're young, you're thinking business, you want to be in business, go for it.
Absolutely, go for it. Thank you so very much to the Watson family for joining us this afternoon here on Community Conversations on your number one Caribbean and Afrobeat music talk radio station here online at lovebayradio.com. And make sure that you connect with us on all of our social media spaces. And of course, again, if you're listening to us live on radio, you can catch the replay on tomorrow at noon, but then also you can make sure that you watch the replay on YouTube and check in with us here at Community Conversations. Now, Mr. Watson mentioned an organization that was founded in 2011. And so look below and you'll see the link, www.seedbarbados.com. Where you can go to this link to learn more about that organization. When you click on the website, you will learn that this internship program has been founded as Barbados's first umbrella internship training and placement program, which would allow young people who, as Mr. Watson mentioned, are in high school and university tertiary level education to be able to further their educational experience by actually having hands-on experience in a career field that is of interest to them. And so youth were able to apply and be placed then with different organizations, both nonprofit and for-profit organizations across Barbados, so that they could shadow someone a professional there, or work on a specified project to be able to, like I said, learn more of what they were learning in school in their books, to actually apply that to real life knowledge. And in that opportunity, they're able to test whether or not this is truly the career that they would want to pursue, or develop a new way of, as Dr. Watson mentioned, introspection that would help them to determine, if this isn't the career, then what is the pathway that they would prefer to go or to take. And so this program was started in 2012 after the organization was founded, and has continued to serve youth in the Caribbean. We see the development of leadership coming through the ranks. So young people who participated in the program were able to come back as ambassadors to then become leaders of the program and of the organization on a whole, developing new programs. So when you go to seedbarbados.com, then you can learn more about this initiative and be encouraged. Every time that we share on Community Come Along, we are sharing with you what other organizations have done, so that you have the opportunity to learn from these organizations. And if there is a need in your community that you think an organization like this can support, you can either connect your community members to this resource, or let's say, for example, this is based in Barbados and you're based in Zimbabwe, you may then look at the model, compare it to other similar models, so that you can develop your own program that would then be more fitting to meeting the needs of youth where you are in Zimbabwe. So, every time we share these links, please make sure that you go and learn more about these nonprofit organizations, so that you too can deepen your level of impact. And Mr. Watson mentioned having a business and having community around that business. So partnerships that have already been developed, relationships that have already been developed, business strategies and processes that have already been developed, mindsets that you have already spent time to nurture and to be able to produce that growth mindset within yourself and then with people around you. And so when you have all of that system already created, then you're able to go out into the world and deliver this goodness to other people who may not have access to the level of resources that you possess. And so if you are a leader in your community, especially if you are an entrepreneur, a business owner, an investor, then these are opportunities that you have to be able to do some good. As we say at 2114, do well while you do good. Now, let's jump right in now to more love, because we want to talk to you about all the amazing things that are coming up through our Love Bay community. So here on More Love, we talk about the amazing things that are going on. So thank you for joining us through Community Come Along, and here we are with More Love to be able to talk about the Voices of the Millennium Voices of the Millennials conference that is coming up this summer. So if you caught our replay a couple weeks back, we told you that this was coming and it was going to be very cool, and to make sure that you're participating. Mr. Watson, just let you know that there are so many ways that your business can support nonprofit organizations. Love Bay Radio is a nonprofit organization. Yes, we are your number one Afrobeat music talk radio show, radio program. Yes, we are your favorite. If you love Caribbean music, you love Afro music, if you are concerned about things that are happening in our community, you want to talk about it, if you're concerned about mental health, if you're concerned about youth, if you're concerned about community development and the reality of things happening in the community, if you're concerned about marriage, we have catered to all of these things. And so we are a nonprofit organization doing as much good as we can. And so with the Voices of the Millennials conference that's coming up, if we can put the information back up on the screen, then we're able to let you know it's coming July 12th. All right. So this is a youth summit on July 12th of 2025. And as a nonprofit organization, we would like to be able to provide financial assistance to students within our community towards their college or university education. So these are opportunities for you to partner with us, right? We tell you about it on the show, and then we give you the opportunity right after, because we are highly efficient. So, these are ways that you can now take what you've learned in the show and actually apply it to real life. And connect with us here at Love Bay Radio. Our information is below for all the different ways that you can get in touch with us, and let us know that you would like to be one of our sponsors for the Voice of the Millennials Youth Summit happening July 12th, 2025. And when you give us a call or a text using our WhatsApp number 437-778-3299, then you will be able to connect with our leadership and let them know that you want to be a sponsor. And being a sponsor means that you will be sponsoring one student to participate in the summit. And as we said, we want to be able to provide financial aid towards their furthering their education. This is what we're talking about, friends. This is why we come together on Community Conversations. This is why we look deeply into the face, into the mirror of what's happening in our community, so we can lay it on the table and talk about it. Because if we don't take that information and then get up and find a way to make a move with it, then whose responsibility is it when it doesn't work, right? If February is about Black family love, then how are we showing love first to ourselves, right? How are we showing that love to ourselves as Black people throughout the diaspora, throughout the world? How are we standing in the love that came before us? Right? How are we standing in the love that our ancestors held for the land, and therefore were able to transmit that love all throughout the world? How are we then showing love to our family members? How are we, maintaining a welcoming disposition? How are we maintaining the opportunity to create space for others? And then how are we taking that love and spreading it to our community, right? I would love to hear your thoughts on diversity, equity, and inclusion. On the one hand, you can see that as that extension of love that we develop at home and then share outward. Has it gone too far? Are you of the opinion that diversity, equity, inclusion conversations have now gone all the way on the other side. We're now including aspects of community and culture to which you don't feel any type of relationship or any need to include or to diversify or to create equity around. Because these are the conversations that we need to have if we are going to stand in spaces where we speak truth to power. Then how do we define that truth, and what is it that we're standing on when we deliver our messaging? And so if we are going to internalize what Black family love can look like and what it can grow into, then what happens now when DEI is pulled away? Are we developing strong businesses? Are we developing strong school systems? Do we have our own financial institutions? Do we have mechanisms to take Black family love out of our home pocket and actually create strong communities of Black family love? Do we have mechanisms where our countries that are majority Black populations are able to actually, hold the space for our people, right? Where our diversity is celebrated, where equity can be sought out, where inclusion is a natural measure. And so if we are living in countries where DEI, as it's more often known, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and accessibility. If you're in that space, you know that that's a term that should also be included there because inclusion, right? And so, if we are talking about these terminologies in spaces that we occupy outside of, let's say, your home country, if you were born in a majority Black populous country, or outside of your culture or your heritage, if you were born in a developed country that has a Black minority or a Caucasian majority, what does that experience look like when we actually start developing Black family love that permeates all of those boundaries that have been imposed upon us, and that we have internalized and imposed upon ourselves and imposed upon the generations that have followed us. How can we take this month to be reflective, to be introspective, to really go much deeper into conversations around what the reality of Black family love can do when we take the conversation past the family and into the community? I'd love to hear your thoughts below. I'd love to hear the ways that you think that this can happen. And I really, really thank you very much, Jenny, in Oslo, for joining us over there in Norway. Keep warm, Jenny. And thank you, first time listener Marcel, for joining us from Ottawa, because we want to make sure that these are real conversations that we're all having in our community. We want to make sure that we are able to take these themes, really internalize them, truly learn, do our own research, and come back and have robust conversation along these lines. So again, let me know if you agree, but also let me know if you don't agree, because debate is healthy, especially when we can have debate in a healthy way. And so while DEI measures are being stripped all across the global north, we spent a lot of time talking about literacy throughout January. So how critically are we thinking about the information that is coming our way? We spent time in December talking about collaboration. So how are we going to work together to ensure the future of our community members, despite whatever craziness is visited upon our global community? And so it's really important to me that we all come together, have these conversations in the community, as you hear it right here on Love Bay Radio. You hear us every Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern time, whatever that translates to, where you are joining us from across the globe, because these conversations are important for us to have. My friends, make sure that you are taking what you learn here and going forward and deepening these conversations, because we need to make sure that our communities are stronger. We need to make sure our communities are more interconnected and more interdependent than ever before. We need to make sure our communities are no longer trying to struggle on our own as individuals, but that we actually truly come together, because dialogue is where it starts. and then action is where it continues. And as Paulo Freire would tell us, that we need to make sure that there's the dynamic praxis between reflection and action. So my friends, we've taken the moment, we've taken the time. This has been Community Conversations on Love Bay Radio. My friends, keep the conversation going.